In an alternate version of 19th century England, society is ravaged by a horrifying and relentless zombie outbreak. London, the heart of the nation, is surrounded by a massive 100-foot wall and a deep moat to keep the undead at bay. The threat is so grave that martial arts has become a fashionable and necessary skill, while the wealthy elite typically train in the refined art of Japanese combat. The more pragmatic and intellectual individuals seek out Chinese martial arts for their superior practicality and discipline. This dangerous world is where we meet the Bennet family. The Bennet sisters, Elizabeth, Jane, Kitty, Lydia, and Mary, have been rigorously trained in Chinese weaponry and hand-to-hand combat under their father's orders, equipping them to fend off the walking dead with precision and grace. While their father values preparedness and survival, their mother remains fixated on more traditional ambitions, marrying her daughters off to wealthy, socially desirable men. She believes a good marriage is the best security a woman can have, even in a zombie-infested world. One evening, the Bennet family attends a grand country ball, a social event brimming with eligible bachelors and upper-class charm. Among the attendees are Colonel Fitzwilliam Darcy, a grim but skilled zombie slayer, his amiable friend Charles Bingley, and Bingley's proud and somewhat snobbish sister, Caroline. Bingley, a young man of considerable wealth, having inherited £100,000, equivalent to over £6 million today, immediately takes a liking to Jane Bennet, the eldest and most gentle of the sisters. Mrs. Bennet is overjoyed by the possibility of such a favorable match. As the festivities continue, a horde of zombies breaches the perimeter and attacks the guests. Without hesitation, the Bennet sisters leap into action, displaying their martial prowess as they fight off the undead. Colonel Darcy, who has honed his own combat skills in Japanese martial arts and earns £10,000 a year from his estate, about £670,000 in today's money, assists in the defense. He is notably adept at identifying humans on the brink of turning into zombies. He uses flies, which are naturally drawn to decaying flesh, as his detection method. Though Darcy initially appears cold and disdainful, he cannot help but be intrigued by Elizabeth Bennet's fearlessness, intelligence, and fighting ability. Despite their mutual attraction, his aloof demeanor and judgmental remarks create tension between them. A few days later, Jane visits the Bingley estate but is caught in a zombie ambush. Though she survives, she contracts a fever. Fearing she may have been bitten, Darcy insists she be quarantined. Elizabeth is furious, especially since Jane's illness is revealed to be non-zombie related. It was caused by a misfired musket that injured her hand. Elizabeth clashes with Darcy over his condescending assumptions and his double standards when it comes to the expectations of women. Back at home, the Bennets receive a visit from their cousin, the pompous and socially awkward Parson Collins, who is next in line to inherit the Bennet estate due to the lack of a male heir. Collins initially sets his sights on Jane for marriage, but when he learns she may soon be engaged, he shifts his interest to Elizabeth. He proposes to her under the condition that she abandon her warrior lifestyle, a demand she firmly rejects. Soon after, Elizabeth encounters George Wickham, a charming and charismatic soldier. She notices clear hostility between Wickham and Darcy, which Wickham explains. He claims that his late father, a loyal servant of the Darcy family, ensured him a modest income, but when Darcy's father died, Darcy cruelly revoked the support. Wickham paints Darcy as arrogant and classist, reinforcing Elizabeth's negative impressions of him. Wickham invites Elizabeth to accompany him to a church occupied by a curious group of zombies who have managed to suppress their hunger for human flesh by consuming pig brains instead. These civilized zombies exhibit restrained behavior and a desire to coexist peacefully with humans. Wickham believes that this subgroup proves that the undead and the living might find harmony, and he hopes to present this idea to the powerful Lady Catherine de Bourgh, a wealthy noblewoman known both for her immense fortune and her unmatched zombie-killing skills. Elizabeth accompanies him to Lady Catherine's estate, unaware that the stern and commanding woman is Colonel Darcy's aunt. When Wickham presents his theory, both Lady Catherine and Darcy ridicule the proposal. Darcy, in particular, takes offense when Wickham suggests that his late father would have supported such a radical idea. Darcy ultimately expels Wickham from the house, denouncing both his plan and his character. As the story unfolds, alliances shift, secrets are revealed, and Elizabeth must navigate not only the dangers of the undead, but also the complexities of class, romance, and pride in a society forever altered by the zombie plague. Elizabeth Bennet receives unsettling news from George Wickham. He claims that Fitzwilliam Darcy was responsible for persuading Charles Bingley and his sisters to abruptly leave the area. Wickham alleges that Darcy's intention was to prevent Bingley from becoming romantically involved with Jane Bennet, Elizabeth's beloved sister. Following this revelation, Wickham unexpectedly asks Elizabeth to run away with him. She is shocked by the proposition and firmly refuses his offer. Soon afterward, Darcy confesses his feelings for Elizabeth and proposes marriage. However, Elizabeth is furious. She confronts him, accusing him of sabotaging her sister's happiness by tearing Bingley and Jane apart, and tensions flare between the two. Not long after, Darcy pens a heartfelt letter to Elizabeth in an attempt to explain his actions and clear up misunderstandings. In the letter, he admits that he discouraged Bingley's relationship with Jane out of concern that her affections weren't genuine and that she might be pursuing Bingley for his fortune. The letter also reveals the darker truth about Wickham. Darcy explains that he and Wickham had known each other since childhood. However, Wickham's actions were far from honorable. He squandered the inheritance left to him and, at one point, attempted to extort more money from Darcy. When that plan failed, Wickham turned his attention to Darcy's younger sister, Georgiana, attempting to seduce and elope with her to gain access to her substantial dowry. This, according to Darcy, was the true nature of Wickham, a man driven by greed and manipulation. Meanwhile, the chaos escalates as it is discovered that Wickham has absconded with Lydia Bennet, Elizabeth's youngest sister. The situation worsens further. London has become overrun by a horde of the undead. In response, Elizabeth and Jane journey to a location known as the In-Between, the final barrier between civilization and zombie-infested London. There, they learn that military efforts to contain the outbreak have failed, and the government has resolved to destroy the last bridge at dawn to prevent the infection from spreading further. During a battle with zombies, Elizabeth reunites with Darcy and Bingley, who are valiantly trying to fend off the infected. She informs Darcy of Lydia's disappearance with Wickham, prompting him to take swift action. Darcy successfully rescues Lydia and uncovers Wickham's shocking plan. He has been organizing an army of civilized zombies, those who appeared tame, to seize control of the country. To halt Wickham's scheme, Darcy gives the zombies human brains, stripping away their civility and turning them feral, thus derailing Wickham's efforts to lead them. In a climactic battle, Darcy manages to stab Wickham in the chest, revealing the ultimate twist. Wickham is not entirely human anymore. He is, in fact, one of the undead, like the other supposedly reformed zombies. Though mortally wounded, Wickham survives and escapes. Elizabeth rescues Darcy from being finished off by Wickham. As they escape the chaos together, the military detonates the bridge, isolating the zombies in London and preventing them from spreading across the country. Darcy is seriously injured in the explosion, and Elizabeth, fearing for his life, finally confesses her deep love for him. Once he recovers, Darcy proposes again, and this time Elizabeth joyfully accepts. The story concludes with a double wedding. Elizabeth marries Darcy, and Jane marries Bingley, celebrating love and victory amidst all the turmoil. However, the peace is short-lived. In a post-credit twist, Wickham reappears, leading a massive zombie army toward the wedding festivities, accompanied by the ominous Four Horsemen of the zombie apocalypse, setting the stage for a renewed battle between the living and the dead.